Welcome to the Next Level Weekend Podcast, your weekly deep dive into the strategies and trends shaping the future of mobile games. I'm your host, and today we're tackling one of the biggest debates in user acquisition. What ad format is actually winning the war for installs in 2025? Seriously, picking the right one can make or break your entire budget.
So that's the core of it, right? We've got three heavyweights in the ring. You've got the super interactive playable ad, you've got the authentic feeling AI-generated UGC, and then there's the classic full-screen interstitial. But who really comes out on top? Let's find out.
All right, let's quickly meet our three contenders. First up, Playable Ads. These are basically mini-games that let you try before you buy. Then you have AI UGC Ads, which are cleverly designed to look like real player content to build that instant trust. And finally, the old reliable, the interstitial, that full-screen ad we've all seen a million times. They all have their strengths, but they can't all be the champion. To figure this out, we're going to put them through a three-round battle. Round 1 is all about cost. Which format gets you the cheapest install? Round 2 is quality. Who brings in players that actually stick around? And the final round, profit. Which format pays you back the fastest? Let's get this started.
Okay, ding ding ding. Welcome to round 1, the CPI showdown. This is all about the raw numbers. How much are you actually paying to get one single person to download your game with each of these formats?
Let's start with a number that's kind of jaw-dropping. If you are running interstitial ads in the United States on an iPhone, you're paying, on average, $15 to $16 for one install. Just let that sink in for a second. That is an incredibly high price just to get someone in the door. But now look at this. On the very same platforms, in the same country, these AI-generated UGC ads can get you an install for just $2 to $5. I mean, that is a massive, massive difference. We're already seeing how much your ad choice matters for your wallet. And when we zoom out to the global picture, the difference is just staggering. Interstitials have a global average CPI of over $11. AI UGC, it sits there in the middle. But look at Playables on the left. They come in at an average of just $1.31. Globally, it's not even a close fight. So for round 1, we have a clear winner. On pure cost per install, Playable Ads absolutely take the crown. They're just unbeatable on price, especially in Tier 2 markets like India or Brazil, where a Playable can get you an install for as little as 60 cents. It's wild.
But hang on a second. Getting someone to download your game for cheap is great, but it doesn't mean a thing if they just delete it the next day, right? A cheap install isn't always a valuable one. And that brings us to our next round.
Which brings us to round 2, the retention test. Here's where we ask the really important question. Which ad format brings in players who actually stick around? We're going to focus on day 1 retention, which is a super critical sign of a player's initial interest in your game.
And the data here tells a really compelling story. Interstitials, way over on the far side, they often lead to these impulsive installs, and they have the lowest day 1 retention, frequently sinking below 20%. AI UGC does better, sitting in that 25 to 30% range, but Playable Ads, man, they are in a league of their own, hitting day 1 retention numbers that are 30 to 40% higher than the baseline.
And look, this isn't just theory. This works in the real world. Just take Rovio, the creators of Angry Birds. When they started mixing Playable Ads into their campaigns, they saw a sharp lift in both player retention and their overall return on ad spend. I mean, that's a proven strategy from one of the biggest names in the game.
So the winner for round 2 is, once again, Playable Ads. Their superpower is basically self-selection. Because players get to actually try the game, they know exactly what they're getting into. This creates genuinely interested, sticky users who are way more likely to come back.
All right, so Playables have won on cost, and they've won on quality. But there is one more crucial round to go. Because having high-quality users is fantastic, but at the end of the day, profit is what pays the bills and keeps the studio lights on.
And that brings us to our final and, you could argue, most important round, the ROAS race. ROAS, or return on ad spend, answers the ultimate business question: which one of these formats puts money back in your pocket the fastest?
And this is where we see a huge twist. In head-to-head tests, AI-generated UGC ads delivered, get this, 4 times higher return on ad spend than traditional, super-polished video ads. That is a game-changing number. That authentic feel, it builds trust, so users act more like organic installs, and that means they spend earlier. So each format kind of has a different financial profile. AI UGC shows the highest potential for that early ROAS, making it fantastic for getting that initial investment back quickly. Playables have huge long-term value, but their payback can be a little slower. And Interstitials, they're really only viable in Tier 2 markets, where you can use massive ad volume to cover their low CPIs.
And with that, we have our Round 3 winner. For getting your money back fast, AI UGC ads are the undisputed stars of 2025. They just excel at driving that crucial early return on your ad spend, especially in those hyper-competitive Tier 1 markets.
So, okay, we've had 3 rounds with 2 different winners. What on earth does this mean for your strategy? Well, this is where we put it all together. This is the winner's playbook, and we're going to show you how to build a winning ad strategy for 2025 using all this info.
Here it is, the master summary, putting everything side by side. You can see the trade-offs so clearly here. Playables are your champions for low cost and high retention. AI UGC is your champion for fast profits. And Interstitials, well, they're a situational tool for just driving sheer volume in very specific markets. This right here is the foundation of our strategy.
Now, let's make this super actionable. For Tier 1 markets like the US and the UK, your winning mix is going to be Playables for those quality installs, layered with AI UGC to boost that early ROS. For Tier 2 markets like India and Brazil, you lean hard on Playables for their crazy low CPI, but you can still use Interstitials for cheap volume, since ad monetization is really key over there.
And we can get even more specific by looking at genre. If you have a hyper-casual game, you are obsessed with CPI. So you'll blend Playables and Interstitials. For a casual or puzzle game where retention is everything, Playables and UGC are your go-to pair. And for mid-core games where you need to find those big spenders, you use Playables and UGC to target those valuable users in Tier 1.
And this really is the ultimate takeaway. The winning strategy for 2025 isn't about picking one single format and going all in. It's about building a sophisticated, blended portfolio, using each format for its specific strength to create a powerful and balanced user acquisition machine.
And that wraps up this episode of the Next Level Weekend podcast. The lesson for 2025 is clear. Don't rely on a single format. Blend Playables for quality, UGC for profitability, and Interstitials for scale where they make sense. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to subscribe and share. And join us again next weekend as we dive into whether AI can really create better ad creatives than humans. Until then, keep your CPIs low, your retention high, and your players happy.